All right, so we're recording again. Let me bring this up for me. Uh, all right, you guys over. Okay, so we'll a little bit about the ancient Egyptians as we are concerned about them in the with in terms of furniture, ornament, and architecture. Uh, the earliest specimens of furniture, I mean, really, the Egyptian furniture is really the earliest. Um, it's the earliest furniture that we have um, that we would like that is like our furniture, and it's um, the reason that we have actual examples of Egyptian furniture is the way that it was preserved in tombs of pharaohs and other dignitaries, and the tombs are underneath a lot of stone inside pyramids, for example. Um, the climate in that part of the world is very dry, so it tends not to, like, moisture is the enemy of wooden furniture. And some of the furniture was plated in gold. So this wooden furniture had three things going for it to protect it and preserve it. And like some of them, like the tomb of the pharaoh Tutankhamun, that was not discovered until the 20th century, and so it sat for more than 2,000. Boy, where's Tutankhamun? Um, I mean, really, like a good like more than 3,000 years it sat in a tomb. So a very long time, and most furniture, like the furniture of the Greeks, we don't have because it was not preserved in this manner. So those are like it's an important point about like why we have actual samples of Egyptian furniture because it is very very old and normally it would not survive. Um, so it was clear that there was an upper class that enjoyed luxury items. Um, there are I'm not going to go into the dynasties, but they used animal legs, like the furniture, like you can see here, the Sphinx, uh, human head, lion's body. Um, in some of the furniture that I will show you, you'll see they use like motifs of animals that are sort of like incorporated in the furniture, um, and there's something that like that kind of like that suggestion or even like very obvious like um, use of like animal forms persists into really even into the present day. Um, Beds, headrests, chairs, storage boxes. Um, these are like pieces of furniture that we have that um, you know from the Egyptians, and really like the like chairs and stools. Um, they kind of got there like they kind of did design design it in a way that it's still being used. So they kind of got there first and figured this stuff out. Um, Conservative society, so there's very little artistic innovation, so things tend to stay the same. And that, in a way, can be very useful. Um, that once they like learned how to make something, made it well, and it was durable. Um, They used techniques of inlay, where you carve out a piece, like some of the, like if it's a wooden piece of furniture, they carve some of it out and they lay in stone or bone or tortoise shell or something like that. So it's a decorative, inlay is a decorative technique. The Egyptians also figured out some of the techniques of joinery that we still use, like dovetail joints. They used mortise and tenon joinery. They also used, and mortise and tenon is where you have like a piece of wood, and another one comes in, meets it at a right angle. There's a hole in this piece of wood, and then there's like a peg in this piece of wood, and it fits inside it. Somewhere in Blackboard, I've got a diagram of what mortise and tenon joinery looks like. But so the Egyptians, the Egyptians developed a lot of techniques that are still in use today because there isn't anything better. So smart people. Okay. Oh, what? There's some emergency over here. Come here. No, he's mad. He's not. You'll look back here. Okay. So one thing that is also a recognizable feature of Egypt, the ancient Egyptian culture, is hieroglyphs. Hieroglyphics. It's a visual language. It's something that it's a way that you can identify something is even something that is modern is referring to the ancient Egyptians. That's something that you would probably be able to identify now, even before taking this class. All right, and the term stylization, it's I guess to treat something in a mannered or non-realistic way. The stylization of these figures, where you see the body, sometimes they'll show like the torso of the body frontal, the head and the legs more in profile. That's a stylized way to present the figure. It's not realistic, but you know what you're looking at. Similar to other styles like Cubist painting is stylized in a very specific way. Really, any kind of art is stylized in some way, but some are more obvious. So I guess it even has like a more like a decorative aspect to it. Okay, here is a tomb with walls painted, and so you can see really a lot of the presentation, like images of Egyptian gods. Also, just the decorative ornament on the ceiling, up the border up at the ceiling, like up on the wall up near the ceiling. The Egyptians I don't think they get enough credit for all the pattern design they developed. One of the things that was important to this ancient Egyptian culture is the Nile River. It's a source of water. You need water for all kinds of things, and so you'll see like stylized representations of the Nile River, just like even like a wave pattern, or even like a kind of like a zigzag pattern. They stylized different plants, like the palm and lotus. Those were like very common motifs that were used in Egyptian design. Nope, that way. Okay, and here Columns, they use columns in their architecture. Column is it's a vertical structural element. There's um, I guess terms in construction, post and lintel, like post and lintel construction. Post is the vertical element, lintel is the horizontal element. So the column acts as the post and lintel. And a capital, you see like a lot of them, you got a broader section at the top, which is the capital, and usually stylized with decorative motifs. In the Egyptian case, it's lotus, palm, or papyrus. When we get to the Egyptians and the Romans, or the Greeks and the Romans, you'll see they have different styles of capitals that are associated with different orders of architecture. But in this case, the Egyptians, really, I think the Egyptians, the ancient Greeks got a lot of ideas and a lot of direction from the Egyptians. Pyramids. Great pyramids at Giza are just 3. The one on the left is not one of the great ones, I don't think. But there are, the height of those pyramids is it's kind of hard to understand how they built them, just with the technology that they had available to them. So I guess that's why some people think it was aliens. I don't know that there's any evidence of that. And trabeated is a term that refers to the construction that is used as post and lintel, which is vertical and horizontal. So trabeated construction. And the Egyptians were very good at building big structures. So in Egypt there are the ruins of some of these sites. Here's the pylon of Ramses. Pylon is a monumental gateway that leads into a temple complex. And the pylon gateway would have an obelisk, monolithic sculpture flanking it. And back to this. Okay, so you see the obelisk there, and back there you can see the part of a colonnade back there. This is at Virginia Commonwealth. It's actually the WebEx menu is obscuring this. This is at I believe it's at Virginia Commonwealth University. This is an example of Egyptian revival. This was built in the 19th century in the United States. So this is an example of Egyptian motifs and forms being used in in a much later period of time. So it's sort of like altered, recomposed to sort of fit the needs of like the architect that designed it and the patron that commissioned it. But still, definitely, these capitals, you see this type of capital with this palm motif, that is Egyptian. Also, you see like the this like kind of like ribs or what's called reeding on the surface. It's really kind of like a bundle of reeds, is what these Egyptian columns were supposed to suggest. And they kind of like have these kind of like convex, meaning they project towards you, this sort of like curving surface. That's Egyptian. The Greeks did the opposite thing where it's concave, so it's carved out and moving away from you, which is called fluting. So the reading is Egyptian. And that long, that sort of like flared out column head with the palm motif, that's Egyptian. When you look at the two a little bit, you'll start to see the difference. Okay. Axial is when you have like a right angle as far as like a composition of this, like this temple complex. So here you can see this is like an artist's rendition of what a temple complex would have looked like based on the footprint of the excavation that they had. So you can see those pylons, what these pylons look like here. There are several of these pylons, before you get to the interior of that temple complex. It's big. Okay. Whoops! Don't. Sorry, my mouse is like a little swipe mouse. Okay. So I think does it say clerestory at the top of that?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Some people pronounce it in a more like modern in the U.S. like modern stuff. People pronounce it clerestory. I learned clerestory as a historical term for this stuff, so that's what I use. If you speak to someone out in the world and you say clerestory, or they'll understand what you're talking about. If it's but when you hear me say it, it will be clerestory. It comes from churches. Anyway, so the clerestory is that raised section of roof in the center. And clerestory windows are the windows up there. And the reason this was done, can you think of why this would have been done?
To allow light into the center of the room?
Exactly. It would get really dark in the middle otherwise. I mean, with all those columns, you can imagine it would get kind of dark in there anyway. But to have that raised section in the center to put windows that would go through the middle would allow more light in. That's an architectural that is still done in architecture. So I mean, it's kind of it is ingenious. They're solving a problem with the way they designed the building. So like this, and this is an example of what's called a hypo-style hall, with just this hall that is just this really like a forest of columns. There it is. And so here you can see the scale of it. Is that impressive to anyone, the scale of that?
Very impressive.
Yeah, you can.
It's so tall.
It is quite tall. So you can see why it would inspire a sense of wonder, especially just like how they did it. All right, here's some more Egyptian revival. This is from Scotland, something designed in the 1830s. The columns on that upper the upper story you can see have like an Egyptian capital on them. This is really like a mishmash of different like Egyptian, Greek, and Roman motifs. These lower like, oops, this little like capital over here, this is like a kind of a flat Ionic which is Greek. And these little guys look like, yeah. Some of the revival styles, they really just kind of like take the original, like ancient, the ancient like style, and just they'll make changes wherever they want to or need to, as long as it still looks like it looks like it comes from that antique world. All right, here is a photograph of the tomb of Tutankhamun. It's kind of trashed because people had already been in it, taking like the more obviously valuable stuff like gold and gems and all that, and leaving all this a lot of this furniture behind. Here, this is a cleaned up example of a. I can't read half of my screen. Scroll. So, 1350 BCE, which is before the Common Era. Wood with inlaid ivory. So you can see all that ivory. The wood would have been carved out and the ivory cut to fit it, and then mounted in that cavity carved in the wood. And this, so like portable folding stool like that. There's a little bit of design. There's design. There's a little bit of engineering going on in there, and it's really a nice design too. All right. This is a Ployant from France in the 18th century. This is 17th century from Versailles. Also a folding stool, ceremonial stool that was used at the court of Louis the 14th. We'll talk about that in several weeks when we get to this, but it was very important. Like, this stool actually became like almost like a status symbol or something symbolic, where if you were ever permitted to sit in the presence of Louis the 14th, it was on one of these little folding stools, and you would have to be an important person just to be there, and your attendant would come and put your folding stool down, and you would sit, and it would make you sit very low, so you would be, there would definitely be a hierarchy of scale with the monarch much taller, much higher than you. So it was really meant to reinforce status. And here, this that kind of like X crossing, like this sort of like crossing structure. This is from 1929, Mies van der Rohe, the Barcelona chair and stool. He knew his history, so I think it is no accident that you get that a similar design. Can't go wrong, really, if you're making your work based on very successful examples from the past. All right, headrest. This is an interesting little unique piece that was designed and decorated that comes from Egypt. The pharaohs and other nobility had very stylized, like headdresses, wigs that would, like, they had to just, they wouldn't, they didn't want to mess them up. When they would sleep, they would rest their head in these. This is actually pretty small. but like they would have to like have this like headrest to rest their head on, so that they wouldn't, basically so that their head wouldn't move. It does not seem comfortable to me. But I think they might have like they had like beds. I think it might have been like either like sitting on the floor off the bed, so you have your head off the bed and then on the headrest, so that it wasn't like your head was like your neck is like angled upward or anything like that. Um, but I think I mean, they're beautiful objects and really kind of like a nice, um, unique cultural um, artifact. So there are a lot of these really gorgeous headrests that come from ancient Egypt. Okay. So thrones. Um, the um, the textbook by Smith, The Concise History, he writes about like furniture, like chairs being like something like there's a like the chair being used as a seat of honor, and so the chair becomes something more than just a place to sit. It's a status symbol. Um, there are chairs that only one person sits in. You get, really, you're getting like, it's like the thrones that you get where your emperor, your monarch, your pharaoh sits on it, and it is elevated, literally higher than everybody else, to establish the importance of that person. So this wood, gold, faience. Faience is like a tin glaze. I'm not sure where the tin, like it's usually done on ceramic. Semi-precious stones, and this is this would have been like costly to make and difficult, requiring the work of the best of the furniture makers. And here another one of King Tut's thrones. And this, you see this feature of the Egyptian furniture with the animal leg, with this like, really it's just the whole leg like of a lion with the paw, and then sitting up on this drum, and then there's the lion head up here, all symbolic to the pharaoh. A stretcher, from a structural standpoint, stretcher is that horizontal element that runs between the legs. So that's what keeps the legs stable and straight, rather than like, if you can imagine, if you did not have that, the legs would just eventually just start to splay out and your chair would fall apart. Not, that would not be a good, well functioning chair. So the stretcher is very important. Here is an armchair by Thomas Hope. This has elements of Egyptian revival. I want you to see some of these in the sort of like, some of these revival pieces that are, I think in some cases very obliquely related to the ancient culture that they seem to come from. You have this like, oh no, oh. The Egyptian vulture. Sometimes you see like the god, like with the sun disk. I think it's Horus is the vulture god. I'll look that up to make sure. But this, again, similar to that building in Scotland, this has like it seems like it's got like Greek and Egyptian elements kind of mixed into it. But there are Egyptian figures holding up the armrest. This is from ancient Egypt, from the ancient Egyptians, a painted alabaster casket. It's really just like a box. It's not very large. I don't think it's very large. But alabaster is a soft stone. Triple alabaster oil lamp in the form of a lotus plant. A lotus is a large water lily considered sacred by the Egyptians and used as a decorative motif in architecture and decorative arts. Grows on the banks of the Nile River, in the river. And here, this is a table by the designer Eileen Gray from 1913. We'll learn more about Eileen Gray much later in the class, but another example of a 20th century designer using Egyptian motifs or like Egyptian imagery, but doing it in a modern way. Eileen Gray was a master at lacquering. She was a rare woman that learned what was at that time, as almost everything was. It was women were shut out of a lot of really just about everything. And she went to Paris from Ireland, and she insisted, I will learn this, and she was good at it. And so she got to do it. She became a successful furniture designer and interior designer. And later on, when we talk about Art Deco, we will spend some time talking about her. Okay, I think that is the last slide. Yep, that is it. Okay, so here I'd like to know, do you have any questions?
Personally, I do not so far.
Yes.
I do have a question. Is there a place where we can go back to these slides?
Yes. Excellent question. I'll show you.
Okay, thank you.
Right here in, let me just share my screen and we'll go to my mouse is just not doing it. All right, let's go to Blackboard and all right, so down here on the side, presentations. And here, Egypt, Greece, and Rome. There in the Egypt, there is that. So click that link and so this is PowerPoint. Hopefully you either have PowerPoint or you have a something that will convert the PowerPoint. Because I'm recording this, I will also post the video on my YouTube channel. So if you look, there's a link in here. Well, I guess I can just do this. I'll replace the link from last year to this year's presentation of this. All right. So here, if you go to my YouTube and playlists, you will see playlist history of furniture, view full playlist, and there we go. So I still have everything from last year's class up here, but I'm going to make I'll make new ones for this semester since it won't be exactly the same. Okay?
I have a question.
Yep.
You also mentioned that you scanned a couple chapters of the books. I haven't received my books yet in the mail. Could you show us where those are posted?
There we go. So course materials. Here, furniture, a concise history. Chapter 1. So this, I ended up scanning it just like one 2-page spread at a time. So it's a little, I'll find out, haven't used this in a couple of years, so I might just have to reformat it. I haven't looked at it yet. Come on. There we go. Oh yeah, that's there you go.
Thank you.
It is there. I'll try to see if I can make that a little bit cleaner, but yeah, but it's a good scan. Yeah, so that is where that is in course materials. Here, this I think might be very interesting. That, oh, that's I'm gonna have to change that again. That it's like that website is becoming obsolete. Okay. Okay. Other questions?
I have a question about the book you just showed us. Are they meant to be just one page each, or should they be longer than that? Because I only see that they're each one page.
Yeah. So if it's here for the first chapter, I scanned the like 2 pages at a time, and so it's really like it's a picture. Each of these is like 2 pages,
Okay.
so it's
Thank
not
you.
the most it's not the smoothest thing in the world, but it's there. So I guess I would probably go through and open all of them at the same, have them all open.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Good. And presentations. There is some stuff in this. It's an intro presentation that I think is good to talk about. Oh shoot, 4 minutes left. Ugh. All right, well, we'll wait for a second on that. Okay. So with a lot of the, especially with a lot of the with the ancient cultures, we have almost everything, and in some cases, everything that we have left from these cultures is the architecture or the possessions of the ruling class, or kings, pharaohs, people who were at the very, very top of the society. There are, like, there is evidence, like in Egypt, of like the kind of like the footprint of domestic housing of people who were workers, slaves that were, that were probably they were the people who did all the hard work building all that beautiful stuff. And that's it's a shame that we can't see more of what their lives were like. But historians do. History is kind of like if you do research in history, there's detective work to it where you learn as much as you can, and then you try to sort of like guess about everything that's missing. So, it's when we get into later centuries, it really isn't until the more like the most recent few centuries where we get furniture that is for someone other than the wealthiest, or housing that is for someone other than the wealthiest. They had the time, they had the money, and they had the status to get it done. And in a lot of other, for most other people, it was really just a matter of survival. So, okay, let's finish it. Just a second here. There is here also a supplemental reading, web resources. This is an article that I found from the New York Times, and I hope it is still, we can still read it, if they haven't put up a paywall on this. Something that you might interest you. It's, sometimes like the materials, like mahogany is a beautiful wood, but mahogany as a material is really something in the Americas can't be separated from the practice of slavery. And I think it's always good to know this. Okay, I think they're going to stop us. I might just have to re-up my subscription to the Times. It's a really good article too. Oh well. Well, we'll see.
It's in the New York Times.
Yeah. Yeah, it's from 2012, August 23, 2012. It's it was when I was studying history, that was the kind of stuff that I wanted to know about, more than just what was really kind of like the stuff on the surface. I wanted to know, like, where did things come from? How were people affected by it? And that's something that I think can be done to some degree, and it can be done in this class too. Okay, so here I made this presentation here a little while ago to kind of like run like with the first chapter in the Smith book. So the Barcelona chair, this is a chair that is very common in as a modern chair. It's one of the most successful chairs commercially. You see it in lobbies everywhere, and this is an original, so it doesn't look quite as clean, or like doesn't look quite as smooth as the modern versions that are made by Knoll. But modern offices, I think if you, I guess modern, I'm going to just move on. Not sure what I want to say about that. There we go. I wanted to get to this. So here, I wanted to show you some of this Stone Age furniture. Here in the Orkney Islands of Scotland is a place called Skara Brae, and here is an ancient Neolithic house with furniture. So they did built-in furniture, which is simple, but people have been doing this for a long time, which is really, this is contemporary with the Egyptians. So this is around when the Egyptians were getting started, and maybe it shows you how much more advanced the Egyptians were, these folks. Here is a chair called a voyeuse, which is meant to be used for watching card games, or other, like if you're like an indoor, like a, some kind of like indoor event in a, like, I guess everything was kind of maybe more formal. But the you see, the way you were supposed to sit on that is backwards. You rest your arms on that pad on the back, and your legs go underneath that, and it's sort of like has that like really like slender. So it's called it's like has like a thin waist on the back. This is it's an example of a piece of furniture that was redesigned for a specific purpose, which was to sit backwards on a chair. I find it to be a very interesting piece of furniture and not a very common one. Tut's Golden Throne. There's mahogany for material I wanted to talk about. This is what a mahogany tree looks like. Yeah, you know what? I think that I kind of lost my. Stop that because I think I'm not ready to talk about that. Come back to that maybe next week. Okay, sorry about that. That was a little disjointed. Well, so what I would like you to do, read the first 2 chapters of the history book. If you're still waiting to get your book, check out the first 2 chapters in Blackboard, and hopefully you'll get the book soon. And if you have questions, let me know. Next week we're going to talk about the Greeks, and we'll do an exercise in class for one of these vocabulary cards. Let me show you the vocabulary card. Discussion
Can I
boards.
ask real quick, when are we supposed to be doing the discussion posts by? Like, when are those due?
Well, so here, this first discussion board is due September 15th. So you can start now. This is open. So anytime between now and September 15th.
And that's separate from the cards? Like, these are 2 different things?
Yep, this is separate from the cards.
Thank you.
Yeah. So here in this So in the midterm vocabulary cards, I have some examples. So here's kind of what these look like, or what they can look like. So as you know, if I understand what it is, then you'll earn the point for the card. If I see if it seems unclear to me, I might ask you to redraw it and make it clearer. But so, like for example, like the balustrade card, it's balusters are those. That's like a little post, kind of like for like a railing, and so a balustrade is a small it's a small row of small columns topped by a rail, often found lining staircases or terraces. That's a balustrade. And the drawing is kind of simple, but it's clear to me what that is. So good job. And these are more like diagrams. The Egyptian column. That's I think that's close enough. So if it's really like not clear to me what it's supposed to be, I'll tell you this is not clear what it's supposed to be. So and you can see here in terms of like, this student set them down on a table and took a picture and then posted the picture. That'll get it done. So it doesn't have to be really well, I guess the presentation, this student made a little PDF. Capital. Right. So these are, everyone's. So in every class that I teach, of this, there are always some students who have just already have experience drawing, and so they make some really beautiful cards, and then everyone else is like, well, gosh, mine are kind of terrible, but they need to be clear. If someone has taken classes and developed really great drawing skills, and they want to have fun with this and make some a bunch of really nice drawings, that's great. But that doesn't mean that you have to also. I'm not looking at somebody's some ringer in the class and saying like, oh wow, these are really good, but so like, why doesn't everyone else draw this well? That's not how I think about it. It's not meant to make you think that there's some deficiency in you. But
That's good because I can't draw.
Geometry is a really good way to approach beginning drawing anything. So there are a lot of things you are allowed to choose what you draw, and so you can draw the stuff that you want to draw. And it doesn't, you should make so you can make it from whichever era you want to make it from. I suggest that you work on not just like everything from Egypt, Greece, and Rome, because there's a chance to when you get there are later periods where you're gonna there's something to learn from those periods as well.
So is it one set of 12 note cards?
So the total for the we're gonna do like an exercise next week that you'll draw and then you'll post it. And that'll be one card. That's an exercise. And then there are going to be a total of 25 others over the course of the semester. And it's 3x5 cards, so not very big. Doesn't have to be a complex drawing. It just has to be clear in showing the thing.
And those would be due like with the final?
Yeah, 12 of them at the midterm, and then the other 13 at the end. Yeah.
So the weekly like vocabulary assignments, are those just the discussion posts?
Yes, they're not going to be every week.
But there's like 4 or 5,
There are
right?
4 of them. There will be 4 of them,
Okay.
and yes. So there are 4 of those. Those are not every week. So there's 2 different things. You know, one of them requires you to do a little bit of research, and then post it, and the other one you're making the drawings.
And for the other ones, we're like given the words, right? And then for the drawings, we just like pick.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, for the discussion board, I'm telling you which one you have.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope that's not too muddled.
And for the discussion board, we don't have to draw those, correct? We just,
You do not have to draw them for the discussion board. You are
Okay.
you can find pictures on the internet.
right, okay.
You can do like a screenshot off one of the presentations of the picture of the, of like a piece of furniture or whatever it is. Yeah. And if you have questions about it while you're doing it, especially for like the first one, ask me, because I can help you. I can help make sure that you are on the right track. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, well, I think that's going to do it for tonight then.
I have one question.
Oh, yes.
So, so how was the attendance taken? Like,
What I did is I took a screenshot of the roster on the right side here,
okay,
so I can see like the participants. So I can see who is here.
okay. So it's better to write our full name then.
It's better that you what?
That we write our name over, like when we enter the WebEx meeting, we enter our proper name.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, I would have to tell everyone, stop, I'm taking attendance now. Wait while I take attendance. Don't go anywhere.
So
Go ahead.
I would just say our first assignments would be to read the first 2 chapters and do the discussion board.
Yes.
Okay.
And you have until September 15th to finish that discussion board. So it doesn't have to be done right away. So yeah.
And for the chapters, was there specific vocab words or are they listed that we get to pick from?
Here, I'll show you. It's in the discussion board.
No, for the note card, like for the note cards.
All right, so here, yeah, let me show you that. There's a separate vocabulary list right here in vocabulary.
Okay, each of them. Okay.
Ba-da, ba-da, ba-da. Well, I guess maybe we don't have to wait for that to open up, but here are
But it's in there.
it's right there.
People.
Is that what I had printed out?
Yep. Looks like it.
Okay, I went and I printed out all of the vocabulary. So it's all in there under Blackboard.
Yep. In vocabulary. Right. Can you do it? Oh, boy, my poor computer is taking a beating today. There we go. So there we go.
So we just choose from these and then do the
Like-
drawings.
Yep. Yep. You can, and you can think about it like, when you, I think the, like here, just looking at the, the words and definitions, you might know what some of those things are, but a lot of the things you won't know what they are. So if you look at the presentations, then it'll give you, like, you'll have a clear idea of what it is. Then you might see oh, I want to draw that.
And are those all the vocab words for the whole semester?
I see that I'm missing the 20th century here. It looks like it got dropped when I transferred the stuff from the one Blackboard shell to another. So yeah, so there will be one more.
Okay. So it's like the first 6, the first
1,
3
yeah.
would be before midterm, and then the last 3 folders would be after midterm.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's you're not I don't expect you to memorize everything. Nobody, it takes a long time before you remember a lot of this information. And so this is just, it's information that's there for you to use during the class. And you'll need a good amount of it, but
Because in the real, like, if you're actually in the field, you would have your notes and all your information with you all the time. Yeah.
you might know, so for example, if you're looking at furniture out in the field and someone is referring to a console table, they're referring to a very specific type of table. And it's kind of nice to know what that is, because if other people know what it is and you don't, and you're faking it, it's kind of hard to hide that. So it's good to have good information. And students tell me that they use the information from this class. One of the students took the class, oh gosh, 2 years ago. She has a business doing staging, and she's done staging for years. And she said after this class, she knew a lot more what she was working with, because people still use Queen Anne, they still use Chippendale, they use Louis XVI furniture. They use all kinds of this stuff, especially some of the last several centuries. The stuff is all still in use. These designs are all still in use, and it's really, when you're working and you and it sounds as if you've had an education based on the way you speak about this stuff. That really, like, that's credibility. And if people trust you, they're more likely to hire you. So sounding as if you know what you're talking about usually means you do know what you're talking about. So, yeah. Okay. All right. I'll see you next Wednesday at 6. We'll talk about the Greeks. Let me know if you have questions. Feel free to review all this stuff on Blackboard as you like. If there are other, I'll be adding like some more stuff that's not there. And yeah, so for the first week, it's a little, you can think about what you want to do for the first discussion board vocabulary assignment. Read a little bit and be ready to learn more about the Greeks.
A last question.
Yes.
Is there a place where we can look at, like, on this day, this assignment is due?
I'm going to have I have created a summary of due dates that I will post.
Okay.
So that it's, where is it? Oh, I closed the document. Yes, I'll have a summary of due dates so that it's very clear. Because if you look at, the weekly schedule, it'll have what's happening and then the
What's due by on that week?
But if there's more, yeah, but if I did create a list that's simple, it just says on September 15th, these 2 things are due.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that would be really good.
6th and
That's
this thing.
perfect.
So just because I know, I was looking at the weekly schedule and thinking, this is cluttered. It's not clear information. I want you to know, this is what we're covering on this, but I also want you to have a separate thing that just says due date.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Yep. All right.
Thank you, Professor O'Connor.
You are
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you.
Wait,
Thank
what's
you.
your cat's name?
A great evening.
Mike, whose cat?
Good
Then
evening.
her cat.
Danielle.
Oh, my cat?
Yeah, what's his name?
Oh, her name is Stella.
Oh my God, Stella.
I'm sorry. She constantly